for all of our franchisers, what we do is we bring them over probably about 4 times a year, 5 times a year, to take a look at the different product that we offer in the different seasons. And these conferences, typically, at the time when you attend one, they can be quite boring because people will walk up and they will literally be showing product after product, labeled by a number, telling a minimal amount of information, typically numbers if they have it, and then just going through, this is product number 1 and this is product number 2. And after 4 days of this, I can imagine a franchiser be quite bored, and actually would probably forget some of the things that they might have wanted in the first place. They absolutely hated it. They didn't like it because when they got up there, they were nervous, they didn't know what to talk about. They tried to make their section of their conference as short as possible, get through it as fast as possible, and didn't know how to really handle the audience. We have, as a franchiser, if you put yourself in a franchiser's shoes, they are the owner of their business and they know what they want. So there were occasions when some of the buyers and some of the merchandisers were standing up going through product and would essentially be interrogated by the franchisers about why they're offering this or why they're offering that and why can't they offer this. And not knowing how to deal with that reaction and how to deal with the audience is a bit scary, which then put them off of that presentation for future times. They weren't getting what they needed. There was definitely no connection between the buyers and merchandisers, which is really the sustenance of the company, and the franchisers who were bringing in the money. There was also, and this is just an underlying thing, was a cultural difference. Because you have people from Greece, from the Middle East, from Russia, from Asia coming over, and then you've got essentially British buyers and merchandisers up there. And inherently, a lot of British people want you to act British when you're in the company of other British people. So the buyers and merchandisers, when they were watching some of the people in the audience, you would see some of the Asian population on their phones, where over there it's not a big deal, but over here, if someone's speaking to you, you get off your phone. And they consider it a bit rude. And there's you have to always remember that it's, at least I look at it this way, as a presenter, it's not about you, it's about the audience. And this is something, again, it's just basic skills that these buyers and merchandisers didn't have that caused them to really hate putting on these franchise conferences. For about two and a half years, they were hitting consistently under budget with the franchise conferences. The international side, in comparison to the UK side, was doing very, very well. But within international, to budget, they weren't making the numbers. And I believe it was consistently around down 10% of budget. And you would think as a trading department, if you're consistently 10% down, you would drop your budget down. But then again, maybe they were doing that and they were still not hitting it. So before we brought Dexter in, it was definitely, we were seeing a loss in sales to budget. I suppose it was when we were having a conversation. I personally, when I was going through all of the different candidates, was hearing a lot of sales technique, a lot of fancy materials being brought to the table, and I can spot a sales technique from a mile away, and I think that set a tone for a lot of the different interviews I was having, where as soon as I hear it, I start to get turned off by it. But actually it was Dexter who, while there was some selling in there, it was the fact that he was relating a lot of what he's done in a lot of his past to exactly what I was looking for without me having to prompt it.
Okay.
Dexter came on board and he did one full day and then one half day. And on the full day, that's right, one full day and then one half day. So on the full day, we brought the senior buyers and senior merchandisers to an off-site location, to a hotel. And Dexter essentially delivered presentation skills training, as opposed to more selling skills. during the whole day, it was just going through basic ideas around presentations, storytelling, creating an emotional connection with your audience, and really what I wanted for the buying and merchandising team was a structure, something that they could walk away with and say, and in their head they could think, okay, when I'm on stage, or even before I'm on stage, what do I need to do first? What do I need to do second? And what do I need to do at the end? And then also, how am I going to remember that? So throughout the day, the full day that Dexter was in, it was just bringing those ideas to life. And while we were going through the day, anything I felt was straying off of what I wanted, I would just have a conversation and say, actually, at the beginning of the day, this is what we talked about. Let's do more about this as opposed to going into this direction, which I believe really, really helped. It's one of those things where I didn't want to overload them with too much information. I wanted them to walk away with something very simple but very tangible. I had gone to the toy section, and so we did this first and foremost with the toy department. And when you were watching the original franchise conference with the toys, again, it was literally just rows of toys, and they would hold them up and talk about, this is product number 1. It could be a deck of cards. This is what we're buying it for. This is what we're selling it for here in the UK. We're selling it to franchisees in groups of, say, 1,000, and then on to the next one, so again, like I said, after 4 days of this, it's quite boring, and you lose out on a deck of cards, or you lose out on maybe a fun little toy here and there, if you weren't engaged with that presenter at all times, which is very easy to lose that engagement when it's boring. So during the presentation skills training that Dexter provided, we talked a lot about telling a story and creating that emotional connection. When we first started talking about it, I was watching the BMR teams, and they were looking, or you could see in their eyes kind of the doubt of this idea of creating an emotional connection. Until Dexter went through and talked about an umbrella that he was selling, and he did it kind of in a QVC type of manner, and was just talking about the umbrella, telling a story behind it, and within about, say, 45 seconds to a minute, sold this umbrella to the entire room, and then broke down what he did to them. So that right there was kind of their own buy-in of what to do. Now, out of that, the idea of telling a story around a children's toy actually becomes much easier, because when you think about the way it was before, a deck of cards, how the hell are you going to tell a story about a deck of cards? But actually, if you start putting the deck of cards with other things and playing with it with other people, telling a story or relating it to yourself or to the audience member, it becomes a lot more interactive, and even more importantly, it becomes a lot more engaging to that audience. They want to listen as opposed to just sitting there and forgetting. This idea compounded and snowballed into them redoing the entire conference. In effect, you would walk in and it felt like a giant toy shop. There were toys everywhere, people were laughing, and during the conference they were going around and playing with the toys at the tables. They were engaging every single member of audience. They had videos of children playing with the toys as they were speaking about it. They played with them in front as part of the presentation, which changed the whole feel of the franchise conference. So much so that even at the very beginning of the very first day, when the franchisors were walking in, as soon as they walked in, you could see the brilliant smile up on their face, and just immediately a change in the attitude. They still ran into some of the problems of remembering what they were supposed to be saying, dealing with some of those tough individuals in the audience, but the confidence level, not only in themselves of being able to do it, plus the support they had with their own team, sporadically in the audience and behind them and on stage with them, made it a lot easier to deal with. And after they went on for their first time, for the rest of the 4 days, it became increasingly easier and easier. Since then, we've had 2 more toy conferences, and each one has gotten better and better. And actually, that's not just the franchise conference now that has changed. Every year, once a year, all of the stores come together here in the UK, because remember that was for international. Here in the UK, they have a stores conference where all of the store managers for all of the shops come and meet once a year. And the toy department decided they were going to do something for the stores conference. So they have put on this year, to promote the new product for the Christmas season, they labeled it as a Dexter-style toy shop. And so they got up in front and they just did kind of a QVC style where they talked about the toy and told stories about it. And so actually what Dexter didn't just influence the one conference, it's actually influenced internationally and here in the UK, because the store managers in the stores conference walked away talking about the toy department and how much fun they had and how excited they were about the upcoming product. So there's been a huge change within. As far as numbers, with that first toy conference from before Dexter to after Dexter, I mentioned earlier they were consistently down 10%. This time we were up 1%, and while up 1% doesn't mean much, up 11% to their prior conference is an immense increase. When I'd come on board, part of my own personal development was relationship building within the company, and historically within the company, creating a relationship outside of the buying and merchandising teams, creating a relationship with the buying merchandising teams is quite difficult. You've got 3 major departments, all of them with their own different levels of difficulty of creating that relationship. So one of the immediate advantages that I found was, after the day with Dexter, I immediately had a great relationship with the toy team, because they came out of it loving the day, because I was that kind of background person, my background representative of the company. They related Dexter to me, which then made them a bit more open to ask questions and come to me about different things. And to date, they're still the strongest relationship I have with the different departments.